Some people once said that politics isn't my thing. We need to talk about politics a little bit, considering an important debate happened last night for the Republican side of things, and we need to talk specifically about Donald Trump, but also Carly Fiorina, who, of course, had a pretty big jab at the debate after Donald Trump, of course, got the first shot in by saying, look at her face. I mean, who would vote for that? Of course, she ended up retorting by saying, I think that women all across America had heard exactly what Donald Trump had said. And it's, of course, an illusion that, based around this idea, he has just lost a majority of women voters, considering this attack, this statement based around her looks. And then, of course, a month ago, there was a statement about menstruation or something or other. Yeah. This is something that's considered to be big, newsworthy, headline-worthy, and it actually goes toward one of my keynote opinions about Mr. Trump and his prospects for presidency. Donald Trump has already made a lot of headlines, and he's been able to do so through a lot of shock and awe. He's been able to do that with shock and awe ever since he was announcing his candidacy, because he was already on the train for building a gigantic wall to keep immigrants out. And, of course, the wall between the United States and Mexico, which has been, of course, a talk for quite some time, because immigration has been a talk for quite some time. And the argument that he's using is that every single day there are tons of immigrants that are coming over the border. There's nothing that's being done. People, guards are sitting right there at the border with guns, and these people are just allowed to walk right on through, and that's that, you know. As though these guys having guns just look at their guns with some sort of romantic intent, considering they're just standing at a border, and that's all they're doing. They're not at home with their wives, or maybe they don't have wives or whatever, or husbands, and they're just looking at their gun like, oh, shit, you're beautiful, as opposed to turning toward all these people coming in and saying, hey, what the fuck are you doing? Bam, bam, bam. There's a joke that I heard, actually, about this whole bullshit, and it goes a little something like this. A farmer, Donald Trump, and a Mexican were encountered by a magic genie. This magic genie was willing to grant them one wish. Anything that they wanted, he would absolutely grant this wish. This farmer lived in California, and he said, Mr. Genie, sir, I live in California where it is very dry. We have not had rain for quite some time. Please put a wall around my property and fill it with water. That way it will sink into the soil, and it will grow my seeds and give it plenty of hydration. That way they grow tall and become great crops, and I can feed my family and those around me. Of course, Donald Trump, he hears this and he thinks, hey, that's a capital idea. Mr. Genie, sir, I want you to put a wall around America. That way we can keep all of the immigrants out. And the Mexican, of course, being a little bit miffed by what Donald Trump had just said, he looks at the genie and he says, you know what? He says, that wall, it's a really good idea, but now my wish is for you to fill it with water. So my point in all of that is the fact that Donald Trump has now supposedly talked himself out of two potential voting classes. One, of course, would be the suggestion that anybody of the Mexican heritage or even of the Spanish heritage would vote against him based around these comments, which is, of course, not universally true. Okay, that needs to be understood. It's not universally true whatsoever. There are still some people out there of that descent that may feel that there have been a very loosey-goose border patrol and perhaps not enough in the way of any sort of registration or any sort of control over this. Although studies have said that there is evidence that proves that just as many people that come into America actually end up also leaving America past that same border to go back to Mexico. However, the other, of course, portion of voters that many people suggest he's just lost a bunch of are, of course, women, and that was suggested by Ms. Fiorina at the debate with the very simple statement that she made. So Donald Trump actually could theoretically, and I think it's a better bet than you might imagine, talk himself out of the Republican nomination, because he may just end up agitating and sort of really leading enough people on this journey, and then all of a sudden leave them stopping dead in their tracks. And I think it showcases a real aggressiveness that is also a bit dismayed by lacking of experience. Many people like what Donald Trump says. A lot of people enjoy the fact that he wants to make America great again, and that's kind of a rhetoric that, if there's anything about this that I agree with him on, is the idea of taxation, because even though he is an extremely rich individual, he seems to have some empathy toward those individuals that are paying more taxes than he is, that are, of course, much, much poorer. Those people who are making a fraction of what this man is generating as far as income is concerned within 24 hours. This is the only portion where it seems like he's making a lick of sense. However, that's not to say that my political affiliation is anywhere right now, considering I don't know nearly enough about the Democratic side, with the lone exception that Hillary should have, used a email server that couldn't get hacked, which Chris Christie felt was a breach of national security, and then she should be prosecuted, because Chris Christie is, of course, the most intelligent man on earth. Right. And that Bernie Sanders supposedly wants to, by the guise of many economists, wants to spend $18 trillion in order to improve education as well as Social Security, healthcare, and all this other stuff. That he wants to spend a lot of money, but also has a lot of great ideas from what the rhetoric that I've been getting from Facebook and from the media and everything like that. And so far, some of that looks pretty good, but it's the big thing that any of these candidates are going to have to deal with if they get the White House, and the big thing that many Americans and many individuals, especially on social media, American or not, need to really realize is the fact that it's more than just the president that dictates these decisions. It's the fact that there are three branches of government, the executive, the judicial, and the legislative, and you need to make sure to understand that handshaking does occur, and that argument occurs. It's the reason why Obamacare is actually not the full proposed idea that Barack Obama had been talking about for quite a long time during his campaign trail. So politics very much are a lot of friendly smiles, open hellos, kissing babies, and sleight of hand. It's basically, like many people have said over the past couple of years, that there's always been a convenient distraction that has occurred whenever something else was going to happen. It's an old idea that is, look at my face, listen to the words that I'm saying, watch me move, but don't look at my hand. My hand is all the way out here to your left, my right, doing something completely different, or responding to something that you might think that I should be responding to something else. It's something that has definitely been present a lot during Obama's 8 years as president, especially here in the internet age, where everybody can have a voice to say that what he should be doing. Everybody seems to know how to do everybody else's fucking job. So, of course, Cindy Lou in Mississippi feels that she can be the president of the United States better than Barack Obama, and that George W. Bush's tooth was a better president than he's been in 8 years. And then you have somebody from a very blue state, such as a Vermont, either that or a California, with Roddy over here saying that Barack Obama's left toenail is a better presidential candidate and president than Donald Trump could ever be. Either that or that Ronald Reagan was the worst thing to happen to America since the AIDS virus, which just so happened to consequently come at the same goddamn time. Oh my God. Holy shit. What do you mean what do you mean the same goddamn time? I'm fucking pissed off. I'm Jerry from Texas, and I'll tell you why the AIDS virus came. It's because of them goddamn immigrants, or them goddamn this, or blah, 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 blah. That's what it is. That's what it inspires. That's what it sparks. And in this election in 2016, and in this a whole entire campaign trail that we're going to be tracking for the next year, not necessarily here on this channel, but within the country. For those of you who are international, I'm sure that you'll be looking on a little bit as well, considering America is very much a representation in the world as it is of itself, in the fact that Americans are perceived as fat and lazy and very war-happy. As being fat, we impose our weight and really throw our weight on other countries, other individuals, sort of impose ourselves into situations. We are lazy in the fact that a lot of our rhetoric and a lot of our our call for change is done very much lazily from behind a chair, behind a keyboard, as opposed to a lot of outward motion being done. The few that are actually making a huge difference in this country also tend to really be overshadowed a good bit by the negative things that happen. This is a very glass half empty culture, a very glass half empty society that likes to really use the glass half full philosophy only whenever it's trying to puff out its chest and say, we're fucking America, and you're not. And of course, finally, war-hungry, war-happy is definitely something that has been showcased throughout the past century. However, it's one that has also had a party affiliation tied to it. A lot of people are not going to like that statement, but guess what? It's the truth, and you should look at the past in order to see that genuine reflection. Think of when conflicts arise and when they start, and think about the party of choice that's within it. Not saying that makes it a perfect world. Not saying that that necessarily means that one party has a certain motive, whereas another party does not. It's also not one to suggest that one party would not be able to make those same calls if necessary. However, it seems that one has a little bit more of a gearbox toward that as opposed to the other. So Donald Trump being a potential candidate is one that I see fizzling. Similar to what we saw with Mitt Romney in 2012, where it seemed as though for most of the summer of 2012 that he was the favorite to actually win the presidency, to actually pry it away from Barack Obama, only to have one speech. One speech! You see, Donald Trump already potentially losing 2 sections of voters in the hearts and minds of some individuals is already twice as bad as to what Mitt Romney actually did in order to essentially lose the presidency. He makes one speech about the 99 and the 1%, the 1%er speech, and it sways enough individuals and it sort of turns them off from his campaign and his message enough where he just kind of fizzles and cracks underneath the pressure, similar to what you saw from John Kerry back in, I believe it was 2004. We could have avoided the second Bush administration, the second Bush term, but Kerry fizzled under the pressure largely during the latter parts of the summer, which of course cost him the presidency. So yeah, this is something that may not be all of that important to everybody. This might be something that is perceived as quite silly. It's just another glamour race, another popularity contest. It is a giant douche versus a giant turd, as South Park so eloquently put it many, many years ago. And in a large case, it's absolutely true. It really is. It is a popularity contest, but it is one that's also very important to many individuals to understand that voting does matter. If you don't vote, you actually don't have a right to complain, and that's a statement that many people say is a fallacy, considering what good was my vote if my person loses, or what good is my vote if I vote third party. It doesn't have a prayer. Some people will actually say, if you vote for a third party, you wasted your vote. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Whenever you participate in democracy, whether you win or lose, you still participated, so your vote was not a wasted one. However, it is one to be said that if you didn't vote for anybody, you really don't have that much of a right to complain. But you also do have a right to complain thanks to freedom of speech, the First Amendment, and everything like that. And that's actually where rock music and heavy metal music comes in, considering during the latter portions of the Ronald Reagan administration and the first years of the Bush Senior administration, the PMRC hearings and things like that, were very closely connected with the music scene and everything like that. And while politics and music haven't exactly handshook all of that much ever since then, there hasn't been any real major controversies with the exception of things such as Columbine, and that was really more the media as opposed to going all the way up to the highest offices in the land. It is something that's very important, considering musicians tend to always have an opinion on things like this. They will endorse different individuals. You'll hear theme songs used. We just, of course, saw the Kim Davis calamity where Survivor was used, and they're not happy about that. Potentially might be considering some litigation. And so music does play a key role in politics just as much as it plays a key role into our emotions, the way that we feel, the way that we move in some cases, considering. So the two have a very important correlation. Rock the Vote, of course, really proved that with Puff Daddy back in the latter portions of the 1990s, first part of the 2000s, and Vote or Die, I think, that was that too. But I want to know what you guys think about all this. I want to know what you think about the election in general. I want to know what you guys think about what is kind of next on the radar and whether or not Trump has a real chance. Whether Bernie Sanders has a real chance, because people are looking at him as the Democratic opponent. People are already kind of, phasing Hillary out a little bit, and I think that might actually be a good thing to do. I'm no political analyst, but she's got a lot of mud on her face, a lot of egg in her eye right now, and I know I just fucked that up, but it's funnier that way. And also, if you're international and you watch till the end of this video, first of all, thank you for doing that. I really appreciate that. It really showcases that you have an active interest in either this topic or just me, which second one could be perceived as a little creepy, but I love you too. I want to know what is going on in your country. I want to know what's going on your side of the world that is perhaps causing a little bit of political concern for you, either that or worldly concern, or what concerns you about the politics that surround you, whether it be over here in America or whether it be in a country that neighbors you or in a city that neighbors you or maybe within your own township. Let me know in the comments below. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.